I Part of the answer probably is that the Russian gold mines can't get the stuff out of the ground fast enough
No,
in order to satisfy the Reserve Bank's demand for gold.
climate,
You know,
yeah.
so I think there are a number of reasons that are probably specific to the Central Bank of Russia, rather than, let's say, necessarily the beginning of a trend of other central banks deciding to go and buy silver. I mean, I wouldn't rule other banks, central banks buying silver out. I wouldn't rule that out. But I think the Russian central bank is in this rather peculiar position of really not being able to pad out her reserves with fiat currencies.
Recent discussions among the BRICS nations have drawn attention to a growing interest in silver as a reserve asset, with many analysts suggesting that its current valuation is low. Russia intends to add silver to its state reserves alongside gold, platinum, and palladium, a noteworthy development. This strategic choice will likely boost silver's emerging bull market and reflect a significant shift in how countries approach precious metals. Alasdair Macleod notes that Russia's move to purchase silver could have substantial implications for the silver market, especially given the persistent imbalance between supply and demand that has characterized the market over the past 3 years. According to a recent report from Interfax, Russia plans to increase its precious metals reserves in the years ahead significantly. The state fund is set to acquire diverse assets, including gold, silver, platinum, palladium, and gemstones, which underscores a strategic effort to diversify its asset portfolio. This shift may have major consequences for the silver market, particularly if other nations decide to follow suit, potentially driving prices higher and altering supply dynamics. Central banks globally have recently been diversifying their reserves, with gold taking center stage. 2023 central banks added 1,037 tons of gold, just shy of the record 1,082 tons purchased in 2022. In the first half of 2024, a net increase of 483 tons of gold was recorded, a 5% rise compared to the same period in 2023. With increasing global debt and a rapidly expanding money supply, central banks recognize the value of hard assets like gold and silver. As fiat currencies lose purchasing power and government bonds become riskier, these assets represent a safer alternative. Diversifying its reserves with various precious metals makes sense for Russia, particularly in light of the economic sanctions that have cut it off from the SWIFT banking system. Now, we present the clips of Alasdair's insights from his recent interview. Before we continue to discuss this, please subscribe to our channel and activate the bell icon for timely updates.
And I mean, quite clearly, it would drive the price higher. But I think we've got to look at the motives of the Reserve Bank. I can see two reasons why they would do this. The first is that in the longer term, however that is, whether that's 1 month or 10 years, they probably see the need for coinage. So they would need to acquire. I mean, you could either do it as a central bank reserve asset or, something part of a wealth fund or whatever. But they would need to acquire stocks of silver in order to be able to do that. So I think that's one thing we ought to bear in mind. I think the other thing is the one of the problems that the Reserve Bank actually faces, and that is being banned, if you like, from owning fiat currencies by us. So she can't even put, if you like, currency, her own reserves. She can't actually get her own reserves up by increasing dollars, increasing euros, or
Mm.
whatever it might be. I mean, she's probably got enough Chinese yuan to, that she might be comfortable with. And I think, therefore, that she's probably doing, we're all doing here. I mean, the three of us, not understood, if you like, by the majority of people, thinking, well, we're not going to stick just to fiat. What we will do is we will also accumulate monetary metals. And
Mm.
part of the answer probably is that the Russian gold mines can't get the stuff out of the ground fast enough
No.
in order to satisfy the Reserve Bank's demand for gold. So I think there are a number of reasons that are probably specific to the Central Bank of Russia, rather than, let us say, necessarily the beginning of a trend of other central banks deciding to go and buy silver. I mean, I wouldn't rule other banks, central banks buying silver out. I wouldn't rule that out. But I think the Russian central bank is in this rather peculiar position of really not being able to pad out her reserves with fiat currencies. The Silver Institute reckons there's been a supply deficit for the last 4 years. People in the industry, or like in the LBMA or whatever, will say that, there's plenty of above ground stocks, in the form of, held by investors and strategic funds and all the rest of it. So that, there isn't really a shortage. Those will be drawn down on. But, the problem you have with that sort of approach is that, investors and holders of
Yeah.
Stocks in reserve, they can see that this is a situation where, if they let stuff out, they're not going to get it back. So what do? You just hang on to it even
Hang
more
on to
tightly.
it.
BRICS countries are actively working to reduce their reliance on the US dollar to strengthen trade ties within the group. By removing the dollar as an intermediary, these nations can facilitate smoother transactions, which could drive economic growth across the alliance. The potential implementation of a blockchain payment system and a gold-backed currency could further enhance trade by minimizing currency exchange risks and improving the accessibility of goods between countries. This move could deepen trade relationships within BRICS and encourage non-BRICS nations to consider similar approaches to lessen their dependence on the dollar. As countries explore alternative currency options, we may see a more competitive environment in global currency trading, contributing to a more balanced international economic landscape. However, Alasdair Macleod points out that transitioning away from dollar dominance will take time, especially given the dollar's long-standing position in global trade. Additionally, the recent decline in the euro's share of international finance highlights the shifting economic dynamics. It suggests that we may be on the brink of a significant realignment of economic power in the years ahead.
Well, the first thing, there's absolutely nothing on the money front. They were saying basically there were two things that perhaps we were looking for. One was a trade settlement currency of some sort. Now that has been effectively ruled out. And that's realistic because you have to come up with something which is better than the dollar which you're replacing. Otherwise, people won't use it. It's as simple as that. Really needs you to have something which is gold backed. And I'm not sure that that would ever make the cut with with the existing BRICS membership, particularly with India being very much against it. So that's the first thing. But also, while we're talking about currencies, the overall political background was one of extreme nervousness on two levels. Firstly, with China and Russia concerned about not provoking America unnecessarily. From China's point of view, she's always had the strategy of let your opponent make all the mistakes. And the Russians have been doing this brilliantly as far as the Chinese are concerned. So, just let them carry on making the mistakes. Don't suddenly sort of get aggressive and get them to sort of suddenly wake up and think, hold on, we've got a better way of dealing with this. So that's on that level. The other level of nervousness were amongst BRICS nations, the other nations that attended who are looking to join. And their nervousness is that America, could well boomerang back on their trade. If they owed dollars, and most of them owed dollars big time, which, maybe to the IMF. But I mean, the thing is that the IMF is controlled by the Americans. The Americans can call in the shots. So, you don't want to upset your bank manager, as it were. On top of that, of course, those Americans are not above creating regime change in foreign nations. So, There's a lot of nervousness about how this would be approached. So you can see that while some people are getting quite excited about the whole thing, they're beginning to see a bigger picture and thinking is immediately going to happen. No, this is something which, as far as China and Russia are concerned, is likely to take some time. They're going to respond to events, not create them. The other thing, which is very interesting, so that deals with the money side. They are continuing to work, incidentally, on having a sort of SWIFT's alternatives and, all the bells and whistles that are required for that. And the ability for banks to settle in currencies with each other without using the dollar, still a work in progress, etc. So that's all rather boring. The other thing, which I don't think has been really noted, is that they have created a new class of membership, which they now call partner status. We might call it association, an associate member of BRICS, but this is, they call it partner, which is exactly the same thing. It means that all these new countries can gradually sort of, assimilate themselves into a sort of common BRICS approach, if you like, to trade. And it's huge, great free trade area is really what it boils down to.
Russia's recent decision to incorporate silver into its state reserves marks a significant shift for the metal, distinguishing it from central banks' traditional focus on gold. This strategic move, combined with the prevailing bullish trends, will likely profoundly impact silver prices. As global economic uncertainty drives central banks to seek diversification into hard assets, silver stands to gain, especially given the promising technical indicators suggesting the onset of a robust bull market. With Russia paving the way, there is potential for other nations to adopt similar strategies, which could enable silver to break through its long-standing resistance levels. This shift could see prices soar to $50 or even higher. Considering historical trends and inflation-adjusted valuations, silver appears to be undervalued and set for significant appreciation in the future. Please share your thoughts on Alasdair's analysis in the comments below. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.